zeitgeist of Americans realizing that African Americans do have a harder time on almost every aspect of society?
Ali, tone deafness might be a generous read in the sense that I think that President Trump and the folks around him are always trying to figure out how to leverage white resentments in particular sorts of ways. Juneteenth is an important moment on what we might call African Americans' alternative celebratory calendar. It recognizes the fact that in Galveston, Texas, that those who were enslaved had heard 2 years later that the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued, and then they realized that they were free. Remember, it was 2 years later. We don't get the end of slavery, of course, until the end, to the passage of the 13th Amendment. But the idea is that there's this moment, this date, just like January 1st used to be a date on that calendar, celebrating the abolition of the slave trade. August 24th was the day in which was abolition of West Indian Emancipation Day. These were important days over the course of the 19th century and Juneteenth in the 20th century and the 19th century to celebrate African-American freedom. But even against that backdrop, you mentioned very quickly, Ali, the Tulsa massacre. Even if he's not going to deliver that speech, right, on Juneteenth, it's still against the backdrop of this extraordinary example of white violence, of murder, over 300 people dead. It's in some ways, Ali, it's white political theater that plays fast and loose with our dead and our tragedy. It's the latest. I mean, I'm thinking about President Clinton's tough on crime speech at Stone Mountain in 1992, playing fast and loose with our tragedy. Thinking about Ronald Reagan's speech in 1980 in the Neshoba County Fair, playing fast and loose with our dead and our tragedy. This is part of that white political theater that exploits white resentment, deepens divisions, and appeals to our darker angels, I believe, Alan. And let me say this really quickly. Derek Scott was just murdered or killed, screaming, "I can't breathe." And a police officer in Oklahoma said, "I don't care." That's the backdrop of this.
Yeah.